Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Tragedy into Triumph podcast, where we believe that any person can overcome the adversity of life with the help of Jesus Christ, with the power that is only found through Him. We are so thrilled today to have Erin Merryn with us today. I got acquainted with her maybe about 9 years ago, 10 years ago, as she came to the church that I was pastoring and shared with us her passion for a law that we're going to get to in just a second. But you know what's interesting about life is that every passion starts in our lives because of something that happened to us. And God gave her a life's work. So, Erin, we're so thrilled to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Gosh, I can't believe it's been 10 years practically.
I know. I keep getting older, and my wife Tammy keeps getting younger. Is how all of that works. It seems
I
around
love
the
it.
brown household. So, Erin, talk to us. I know, I know that you have had your share of adversity in life, but I also
Yes.
know that that share of adversity has lit a fire in you to try to help someone else never experience the pain that you've experienced in your life. So we appreciate you talking about this today, and in the hopes too that it'll change somebody else's life. So walk us through some of that journey in your life.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in the Chicago suburbs where I still live. And it was when I went off to kindergarten, I met my best friend. And like most little kids, it's that best friend where they have the first overnight. And at her house on my very first sleepover, the uncle that lived in the home with her, her dad didn't live there, he wasn't in the picture. Her uncle came into the bedroom and for the first, not last time, sexually abused me and told me to keep it a secret. He told me that he would burn my house down if I didn't come back. There was a time that I had not come back for several weeks and he drove by my house while I was out playing in the front yard with my sister. So that fear as this, 6, 7-year-old of my house and my family are going to be killed if I don't return to this home. And the abuse, started off with just sexual abuse and turned to brutal rapes. I mean, I was being tied up, you name it. I mean, at times I could tell you the color shoes I wore, the shirt I wore that day, and I can't tell you what I dressed my son in yesterday. That's what trauma does to a child. It's something that sticks with them that they don't forget. And I began acting out, having all these behavior problems as a 6, 7, 8-year-old. I was held back. They made me repeat first grade, thinking I wasn't ready because of my behavior problems. I was one time being babysat by my grandparents, and suddenly I relived being raped while I was at their house, all because my sister pushed me on the couch and I'm, reliving what happened to me weeks earlier and put my hand through a window. So I'm now having emergency surgery, a grandpa rushing me to the ER. At that point, that is when the school sat down and labeled me, and I still have the paperwork, a behavior and emotionally disturbed child. Their first
Mm.
goal for me, Erin will find 3 proper ways on how to deal with her anger. Well, what I tell lawmakers were, where are the ways teaching me how to speak up and tell when I'm being abused? The only education I was getting was to keep it a secret. No one was educating me on how to talk about why I was so angry, why I was having these behavior problems. And eventually my abuse ended, not because the police officer who had taught me about stranger danger, no, it wasn't him coming in and teaching me safe and unsafe touch, safe and unsafe secrets, that you'll be believed. No, we moved. I got away from this monster, never saw him again. But moving got me that much closer to the next monster in my life. 90% of the time, it is not strangers parents need to worry about hurting kids. It is someone they know and trust. And this time it wasn't the neighbor. No, this time it was someone a lot closer to me. Now I'm a 5th grader waking up to my older teenage cousin sexually abusing me and telling me to keep it a secret. We were
Mm.
a very tight-knit family. Came from a family, our parents were one of 7, so we were always getting together for somebody's birthday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, confirmation, you name it. And it was during these family gatherings, he found a way to lock me in a bedroom, basement, closet, car, you name it, sexually abused. And every single time he threatened me, Erin, no one will believe you. You'll destroy our family. So because I lived with this fear that I wouldn't be believed, I had no proof, I just wrote about it in my diary. This little pink diary, I just documented all my abuse and hid it under the mattress and just kept writing about it. And it was around the time that I was being taught DARE in 6th grade, the 8 ways to say no to drugs. I still have my DARE card. I hold it up to legislators and I flip it back and I said, it teaches me the 8 ways to say no to drugs. But where are the 8 ways teaching children across this country on how to get away and tell today when you're being abused? I knew not to give to the peer pressure of drugs and never tried anything. But when it came to being abused, I only listened to my perpetrators. And the only reason my abuse ended because when I was 11, 12, 13, in sixth grade, my 11-year-old sister came to me and said she was also being sexually abused by
Oh,
the same cousin. And that's the thing that people need to understand. If they're doing it to one kid and getting away with it, it is very, very, very likely they're doing it to another.
wow. So at that point, your sister came to you. Did you then fight for her? What happened after that?
Well, I remember that day as we sat on our trampoline and exchanged stories of the same Thanksgiving he abused both of us. Though one time I escaped him, he went after her and locked her in a basement. Well, I looked at her and said, "We can't keep this a secret anymore. We have to tell mom and dad, and this is going to destroy our family." And we told them the next day. As you can imagine, they were devastated. And my cousin Brian was right. It did destroy our family. They took sides, majority taking his side. We were interviewed in a children's advocacy center where we had to tell a forensic interviewer what happened to us. Then he was called into the police department by the detective handling the case. And shockingly, he had been denying it to his parents. This, I never did this, they're liars. But in police custody, they got him to confess. And he was end up giving probation. He couldn't come near my sister and I, community service, and had to get counseling. And but moving forward with my life, you just think because abuse ends, it's just going to go away. No, the nightmares, the flashbacks, it was haunting me constantly. My parents sent me to counselors. I didn't want to talk about this. There was too much shame. I didn't want to say what happened to me. And my parents, especially my mom, were devastated. It destroyed our family. So I didn't tell them what happened when I was 6, 7, and 8. I feared what it would do to my parents. My mom was already saying things to her friends on the phone like, "My children's childhood is ruined. All I wanted was the best for them." So I kept that secret, but it continued to haunt me through my teenage years. And that secret from when I was 6, 7, and 8 did not start haunting me until I got to college.
Wow. I'm sure people are listening, and the reality is, Aaron, tell me the percentage. What's the percentage of young people that have some sort of sexual abuse?
Yep.
Yeah, what's
And
the
four,
percentage?
1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by the age of 18. They use the number now 1 in 10 children by the age of 18 will be sexually abused, but it's an epidemic.
It is.
We talk about all these other topics. Do you know what I tell legislators? We mandate across this country for 16 years I've been at this. We mandate tornado drills, bus drills, fire drills, mass shooting drills. Children are far more likely to be sexually abused than any of those things I just listed to you. So why aren't we talking about personal body safety in the schools? This is a no-brainer. And you can't put it on parents. I wish we could. Parents are not having this conversation. They just aren't. And
Yeah.
so where's the one other place kids spend most of their time? It's in school.
Boy, isn't that is so true. And you think about how over sexualized we are as a culture anyways. I wonder if that sexual abuse is increasing with the increase of and access to all sorts of forms of pornography and things, and just the ready of it, it's at fingertips at such a young
Yeah.
age, it seems.
Well, it's been skyrocketing.
Yeah.
It's so changed since when I was a kid, came forward with my abuse. What now happens? It's horrific.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And so a child, 1 in 10 total, male or female, but even for a female, 25%, and then we're talking about, would you say 2 out of 6 for young men, or 2
Uh,
out of 10?
1 out of 6 for boys.
1
To be
out of
sexually
6
abused.
for
And it's a
boys.
lot harder for boys to come forward. There's so much shame around it. So many times men just keep it in. I can't tell you the most moving experiences I experience as I travel this country, standing on stages in front of thousands telling my story, is the grown men that come up to me. And it's been happening a lot lately with tears in their eyes and saying the words to me, "Erin, me too. And I've never told a soul. My wife doesn't know. I never told my parents." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is the first time you're saying something." It breaks my heart to see grown men cry about this and to see what they've kept, a secret their whole lives.
Yeah, or to hold all that in for so long and not feel like that it's that there's an avenue to
Mhm.
talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable, unbelievable. I think it's do you think we don't talk about it because people feel like it's so taboo, and it's better to just keep it hidden than it is. Maybe it's stigmatism for family. Maybe it's what are people going to think of my young adult son or daughter if they confess it? Is it I was counseling someone once, and they were trying to convince their daughter to not come forward. This is years ago, because they were running for city council and they didn't want the stigmatism on his daughter. It was a horrific thing. Could you imagine?
It is
And
awful.
I mean, for the sheer fact that dad was worried about what it was going to look like for him, and what it might do to his aspirations. It's unbelievable to to ask your child to live through that trauma and not advocate for them as a father. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
it is. And you know what? It keeps being put in people's faces. It's not going away. It is constantly look around. There's the Jerry Sandusky, there's the Larry Nasker gymnastics coach, and now I got Epstein. It's in the
yeah,
news every single day. People need to realize this is an epidemic. This is going on. And I tell people, if you listen to me and think, well, I don't know anyone that's ever been sexually abused. Yes, you do. They just haven't told you. There's too much
yeah.
shame. They're keeping it a secret still.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And it's something I think maybe, well, and we'll get to your law here, but it's something we need to speak about sooner rather than later, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm thinking of moms and dads who are so trusting of their friend group, of the people in their church, of the people that, in their schools and things. And so how do you balance that, Aaron? How do you balance the fear with also giving children space and things? You're a parent. How have you balanced that in your own?
Well, I don't wanna put fear in my kids, because that's
Yeah,
the last thing I wanna do is make them afraid of people because,
yeah,
I don't want them to think everyone's bad and gonna hurt them. I just talk to them about it in an age-appropriate way, and I tell people, "You need to start having this conversation at age 2. When your kids
age
start
two.
communicating, you need to start." There's lots of kids' books. Very easy way because parents are like, "Where do I start the conversation?" Now, I got a bunch of resources on my website of children's books. I got on the Aaron's Law Foundation page the do's and don'ts on how to talk to kids about this. So, no, I don't want to scare children, but it's a reality. We need to talk to kids about it because I don't want them to spend 6 years of their life experiencing what I did. I would rather, when the grooming process happens, they tell someone what somebody is
Yeah.
doing and how they find this behavior odd and I don't want to be by this person anymore. Instead of all of a sudden something happening and it leads to threats and the kids stay silent.
Aaron, I cannot imagine as a young girl how fearful. I mean, that your house is going to get burned down. I just can't imagine that. And to think you're on the on the other side of this, and you're fighting for others is such a great testimony. Not only what God has done in your life, but your own personal resolve. And I kind of feel like. I kind of feel like the enemy, and I'm talking about Satan there, I kind of feel like the enemy messed with the wrong young girl. And I love that
He
thought.
did.
I love that thought personally always about, you know what, the enemy's not going to win. And I know this is probably like, this is not a pastoral, a pastorally thing to talk about. I often think about like shooting the enemy mental birds in my mind. Like you can just go somewhere because I'm not going to let you gain any foothold here. I'm not going to let evil win.
Yes, let me tell you, Satan has come after me, spiritual warfare, year after year in the process of doing this. The stories I could tell you of, and it always happens when traveling to speak, or I just got it passed in another state. And terrible things happen. And it's like Satan's coming after me, trying to make me quit, walk away. And yeah, like I said, it's spiritual warfare. And it is
Yeah,
the list I got going of the things that have happened over the last 16 plus years, where, like I said, it's always around, not when life is just, I'm just, it's summer and I'm not traveling, speaking, or passing a law. It's always during those times where something big happens. And I am now giving kids a voice. I am now standing on a stage and exposing what Satan did in my life and saying, "You lost. You're not keeping me quiet. And I'm going to lock up these monsters that you were causing harm to children with." And which
yeah,
is why I went after, I held on to so much anger and hatred towards my cousin. I was such an angry person in high school. I wrote him a letter. And I told him I wanted him to burn in hell. I'd love to push him off a cliff, feed him to bears, because I felt like he got away with this.
Mm,
I never expected a response. I found his college email address and sent it. And that was the best decision I ever made because it was that decision that he responded. And we went back and forth for 7 months corresponding. Him trying to tell me I wasn't abused, I was just a sexually curious teenager. And I'm like, well, I'm being quiet. Why'd you have to do it to my sister? We
yeah.
went back and forth, back and forth. But it was during that process I realized staying bitter and angry is unhealthy. It's doing me no good. I'm letting him win. He's
Yeah.
continuing to take joy and happiness without even abusing me. So it was
Mm,
at that point, my senior year of high school, that I realized I have to forgive him. And he wrote
mm,
me and said, I'm sorry for what I did. I hope you can forgive me. But if you cannot, I understand, but I'm sorry. And it was during then that, like I said, I decided I need to put a face and voice on this. I had an aha moment. And I took that diary that I was supposed to keep everything a secret in and published it into a book called Stolen Innocence and
mm.
literally put a face and voice before I graduated high school on this silent epidemic, wanting to
Good
raise
for you.
awareness.
Yeah, good for you. I'm sure everybody that's watching this or listening to this that isn't maybe familiar with your story, but they probably want to know, what about the first abuser? Did
Yep.
anything happen to him?
Yep. So I often tell survivors, well, if you're listening to me and you've been abused, but you're like, this isn't affecting me, I'm not going to tell anybody. It eventually is in your face. You can repress it, and suddenly at 30 years old, you're back reliving it. And that's what happened in college for me. I always thought it was so odd that I was constantly being re traumatized with what my cousin did. But what happened when I was 6, 7, and 8 was 10 times worse. And it wasn't bothering me. Then college hit, and suddenly I'm reliving it, haunting me all of the time. And it was during that process that I went down another destructive path of an eating disorder. So now I was starving myself because I couldn't tell anyone what was haunting me. And it wasn't until the end of my senior year, one night I just broke down and told my mom why I didn't eat, why I was starving myself. And I looked at her and said the words, Mom, Ryan wasn't the only one. And the look of shock and horror across her face, I'll never forget it. She bawled until 3 in the morning and said, You need to go to police. So I went to the police. Unfortunately, uh, it was he said, she said. They went and found him. He was still living with his sister. I always wondered if he had kids, got married. Nope, never left living with his sister, never got married. And police showed up. He refused to cooperate, refused to come in and talk to them. And because it was a he said, she said, there was no physical proof. The detective said, Erin, unless I can crack him and get him to confess, we can't prosecute him. So he was never prosecuted, and he died a year and a half ago. His family found him dead in his apartment at 60 years old. And yeah, that's, you know, had horrible kidney disease, and literally spent his life on unemployment and dialysis every week because of his poor health.
Mm.
And so yeah, unfortunately he was never prosecuted, but that was the outcome of that.
I had somebody say something to me the other day that I had never thought about. They said, I can't prove this. It's a guy I really respect. He said, I think there's something to the way that if we live well, I think God allows us to die well in our latter days. And if we've lived poorly, I feel like God allows us to die. And I'd never really thought about that, I've thought about people that have done some atrocious things and struggles that they've had in their lives later because maybe it was unconfessed or whatever else. Unconfessed sin, guilt, all of those things in our lives, they become its own growing tumor inside of us that we
Uh-huh.
never get rid of. It's toxic that we never get rid of until we confess it. And for anybody that's watching, if you've done any of this to another person in your life, you need to hear somebody say to you, it's time to come forward. You'll never have peace in your life until you own the truth, because it's where truth meets us with the power of God's help that we can overcome. And there is, for every person, there is the opportunity to find hope that's only found in Jesus' name, right? I mean, for every person, but you've got to be honest with who you are. For every person that's been a victim, right? They've got to come forward too, right? And not be ashamed.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And often the perpetrators were abused themselves. No excuse, and it's not always the case,
No, that's
but
right.
often they go on to do what was done to them.
Yeah. And I think your word, you used earlier, monster, is correct. That's the correct term. And the only person that can transform that in anybody's life is if you'll the word says, he who does what is right comes into the light. So come into the light.
Yep.
And and that's the only way to not be labeled a monster for sure.
Yeah.
What so what Aaron, you publish your senior year, and what role did your faith in God play in all of this?
Americans have a big healthcare problem. Over 100 million citizens carry medical debt while spending on overpriced and complicated health insurance. As Christians, we don't have to pay for a broken system. Christian Healthcare Ministries is a faith-based alternative to health insurance at half the cost. Plus, you can enroll at any time. Stand up to insurance and join CHM today.
Life is hard. Bad things happen to good people. And yet, some people learn that their struggles, failures, and flaws can be stepping stones instead of obstacles. They find a way not just to survive, but to thrive despite facing hardship. Would you like to be a person like that? Someone who manages to find victory, joy, and peace, even when the storms of life come. A simple step you can take right now is to order Wendell Brown's new book, Living in Triumph. In this compelling new release, Wendell shares with you proven secrets not just to getting by, not just to endure hardship, but actually to thrive, grow, and discover more than you ever thought possible.
Yeah, well, as the result of forgiveness, that's what allowed me to, my Christian faith of I'm going to go out there and, put a face and voice on this and talk about not letting the enemy rob you of your joy and happiness and how forgiveness can set you free. And just because you forgive your perpetrators, it does not mean what they did was okay. But it frees yourself, frees your soul. And it was as a result of that, I went on to write a book, Living for Today, and focusing on the future. And it was during that process that I heard the Lord speak to me. I went off, got my master's in social work. I started off in high school as a school social worker. Then I was working in a youth counseling agency. And I literally heard God speak to me, telling me to quit my job and go pursue this law. And I'm thinking, how do I tell my parents I'm going to quit my job, my income, I'm going to go do something? How do you pass a law? So I began researching. How do you get a law passed in Illinois? Got a book sent to me, How to Get a Law Passed. Started researching. God kept putting it on my heart. And I'm like, did I listen to this? But I have never heard God speak to me this way. It was like clear as day and convicted me to hand my boss my letter resigning. He tried to get me to stay. And I said, I don't have another job opportunity. I said, I have a calling on my life that the Lord has put, and I'm going to pursue it. He has told me it won't be easy, but I will get it done, which is why I'm so confident I'll get this passed in all 50 states. And that was back in 2010. Here we are, 16 years later. I have traveled from one state capital to the other, as far away as Alaska and Hawaii, testifying to legislators to require once a year teaching kids personal body safety education in schools. 1 hour a year, giving kids the voice on how to report and tell if this is happening to you. So that the
Yeah.
little kids that were like little Erin, throwing the tantrums, misbehaving, know how to tell someone why they're doing this, and training the educators on the warning signs to look for. We need to stop these predators, because if we don't give kids a voice, these predators are going to continue to do it to other children. And these children are going to grow up to do more destructive things, turn to drug and alcohol abuse, eating disorders, self-harm, suicide, the list goes on. And that's my passion and drive, experiencing going from one state after another, seeing the success of what this law is doing as I pass it in more and more states, seeing that it's working. When I hear another story, it's this motivation of, after it's died in a state for the 10th year, and I'm just so frustrated going, why? Why won't they pass this? And then all of a sudden I'll get a Google alert. Aaron's Law, brave child comes forward after being taught personal body safety in school.
Mm,
And I'm like, yep,
mhm.
I hear you, God. I need to keep going.
Yeah,
Can't give up.
yeah, that's so good. And Aaron, you really believe this is God's life work for your life, don't you?
Oh,
I mean,
100%. I get
yeah,
asked all the time, why don't you give up? Why don't you just come to the acceptance that, here you are at year 12 of the state killing your bill, And I said, we live in a country which is great. People are constantly being reelected. And when you've got new legislators in, you don't know the survivors, that senator, that representative, that I'm hitting to the core of their own story. And I've had that happen. I've had legislators break down and cry who said, had Erin's Law existed, I would have spoken up and told. But like Erin, I was abused for 4 years, never telling anyone what happened to me. We need you all to pass this.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's the passion and drive of seeing the impact that it is making and literally hearing God tell me, you will get this passed in all 50 states. So I'll never give up. I don't, he didn't tell me how long it would take me. I've been doing this, since my middle of my 20s. I'm now 41, but I might be 50 by the time I get to all 50 states. I might be 70. Who knows? But
Who knows?
I will get it done.
That's right. That's right. So I think, is Ohio the last state to get it passed? Are we the
So
most recent?
Ohio is the most recent. However, Ontario, Canada passed it a year and a half ago. They are now
Really?
Yep, they're now requiring it. There was a man in an audience I was speaking at. I was brought there to speak to a whole hundreds of people, and a man walked up to the executive director and said, if I ever run for office, I'm introducing this legislation. The rest was history. Fast forward 8 years later, he's running for office. He's a legislator in Ontario. He gets it passed. I was going to come testify and everything. They didn't need me. Just flew right through. I go, why can't every state in America be like that? Just
Yeah.
passed it like this, and now they're doing it.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is amazing. That is
Yep.
amazing.
But now I'm dealing with these, these difficult legislators right now in Wisconsin, in Iowa, and in Kansas. And what's so frustrating is I got the whole assembly in Wisconsin to pass this law in November. And now I got just 3-4 Republicans in the Senate that are killing my law. I have one more shot next month at getting this passed. And I am
Wow.
being told they have no plans to call and vote on it. And it's so frustrating to me. I'm like, why? What do we have to hide? And I tell
Yeah.
legislators when I finish testifying, I said the only people that should be voting against my law are the ones that want to abuse kids. I have no problem saying it. Am I accusing them of being child predators? Well, I'm going to question. Why wouldn't you want to give kids a voice? You want to
Yeah.
protect them from mass shooter. Well, why don't you want to protect them from child molesters? Please
Yeah.
explain that to me. I don't get it. And it's so aggravating, but something they learn, and I tell them is, I am not going away. I will become your biggest headache. I'm a bulldog, and I will go to the media and put your name out there that you're not protecting kids. I'm currently looking at billboards in Wisconsin.
Are you
It's an
really?
election season. I'm looking at billboards, and I am going to put their faces up there and say, don't reelect this man. This man killed Erin's Law if they don't pass it in March. I've never gone to that extent, but Wisconsin has killed my bill for a decade, and now I'm being told it's about to be 11 years. So I'm going to get these guys voted out of office.
You. Good
You
for
don't want
you.
to. You don't want to get on my bad side. Nope.
Hey, listen, as of today, I'm on your good side. I'm very thankful for that, Erin. That is awesome. And I
And
love,
I tell people, I say, they're like, why are you so passionate and just you don't give up? And I tell them, I said, if you can step in my body for a week, a month, and live with what I can erase, you would understand why I want to give children a voice.
yeah,
What I don't want them to carry the rest of their lives that, can continue to haunt them, that you can't escape. And that is where my driving passion comes from, to protect kids.
yeah. Erin, do you know one of my favorite scriptures is Galatians 6:9. Do you know what it says?
No.
It's so good. You will reap a proper harvest at just the right time if you don't become weary and don't give up.
Yeah.
So
Yes. I
that's
love
you.
it.
That's you.
Yeah.
And you're right. These 50 states are gonna fall in line. And no matter you can go to her website. And we're gonna have her give you all the details, and we'll put it in the description and make sure it's easy for everybody to. We'll make sure it's accessible for everyone. But one of the things too, I think, if you live in one of these 12 states, they can go to your website, right, and get involved. Is that correct?
Yes. Go to my website, Erin's Law Foundation. And like I tell people, in erinslaw.org, you can see if your state is one of the remaining right on the front page. What you need to do is you need to write the senators and the assemblies members to vote on this, to pass it. Don't just write one in your district, write them all. They can't just hear from this mom in Chicago. They need to see the importance of this. As I tell people, you need to fill your inboxes. I go and join all of the Wisconsin mom pages, and I'm like telling them, campaigning, please, please write them. They need to hear from the people that are going to reelect them. Let them know. And that's what I do. I use every resource I possibly can to, you know, if that's meaning putting them in the spotlight and making them look bad, or reaching out to the community to help me. The media has been powerful. They have really helped me push this through.
Yeah. So if you're talking to someone who has experienced this level of sexual trauma as a child in their life, or even as adult, right, with rape or whatever, what advice do you give them? What do you tell them to do?
The best advice I always give people is, if you haven't told anybody, you need to start talking about it.
Yeah.
You can't escape it without therapy. You truly can't. And it's difficult to tell your spouse, your family, from siblings to, mom and dad, but you can't protect them. It's the
Yeah.
reality of what happened to you. And no, do they need to know all the gory details? No, but you don't have to live in this shame like this is your fault.
Right.
And you're not allowed to talk. You have to ignore the lies of what you've been told. And it's hard to retrain your brain because you've been told over and over, no one will believe you. Don't talk about this. This is your fault, blaming you. And so it's trying to convince yourself that, oh, this wasn't my fault. I was a child. I did no wrong. And the one thing I like to tell survivors is the one thing that you can get back from your perpetrators is the voice they silenced. And
Yeah.
and I've done that to an extreme. And they can't get me to shut up about it. I'm going to keep speaking about it. Those two men messed with the wrong kid, let me tell you.
Do you think so a way through it for you was that, because I was talking with somebody the other day and they said, I can't get past whatever it was in their life. And and it was leading them to thoughts of kind of similar to you, self-harm. It was leading them to questioning their own validity and value and things. And I said to them, and you tell me whether this was good advice or bad advice, but I said to them, every time you are tempted to harm yourself or lash out at someone else because of what happened to you, flip that on its heels and do something good for
Yes.
someone else.
And that's what I tell people. I go, you cannot change the past. So why focus there? Focus on something you can do. And that's change the future. And that's what I've
Right.
done. You
Yeah.
can, yeah, you need to talk about it, but how can you turn this negative, awful thing into something positive?
Yeah.
What can you go out there and do? And you can do that in so many situations in your life. Like I know someone whose son committed suicide, and I tell them, like, go out there and do something good with this. Help save other teenage, from going down this path. When they're
Yeah.
depressed, they're this, that, it's okay to get help for your mental health. That, you take care of yourself when you're physically sick and go to the doctor. But, if dialysis, cancer treatment. So why, when your mental health is being impaired, why should there be this shame around that? And there
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people. I'm like, you can do something positive in every situation. And
Yeah.
and I tell people, don't play the victim because everybody is going through something. It may not be abuse, but there's the marriage down the street from you that is crumbling and there's an affair going on. And there's the parents that have just been told their child has cancer. I could go on and on. And as I like to tell people, you can let the enemy rob you and stay miserable, or you can do something positive with this. And I don't want to come across as, people seeing me like, oh gosh, Erin's life is perfect. It's amazing. Look at all the good she's gone on to do. And how does this not affect her? Well, believe me, it still affects me in a lot of ways, in a lot of negative ways. But the thing is, when I have those negative days, when I have those awful days, and my past finds a way to creep up and haunt me, it gives me more to go out there and be that bad, what, to pass this. Because I'm like, and this is why I don't want children to be abused, because I don't want them to wake up at 41 and see, someone that looks like their perpetrator in an airport. And I go from
Yeah.
speaking on a stage to 1,000 people to the next day reliving awful things that happened to myself. And I go, and this is why I do it. And this is why Satan will never get me to shut up. Not today, Satan, you're not going to win. Nope.
That's right. That's right. Well, Erin, I just want to say, in my brief time of knowing you, you are quite the inspiration,
Thank
and
you.
I am fully convinced that that the Lord can use your life to further transform other lives. He is. I believe it's gonna continue. I'm gonna ask the tragedy and the triumph audience to just commit to pray that these last 12 states are gonna come to the table and that lives will be changed and to be on the lookout for themselves, for that one person, because I want to come back to that real quick. There is always that one person that your school system thought you were angry. They were giving you lessons on how to overcome anger until you deal with your anger. And the reality is, everybody's got a story, don't they? Everybody. There's
Everybody
always
does.
an external, internal factor that's dictating behavior. And so don't just look at the behavior, look at the person, right?
Exactly. Don't, yes,
Yeah.
you need to address the whole situation. Get to the root of why that kid is behaving that way. Talk to them. Don't just talk to the parents and let them come up with assumptions. Oh, the kid's acting out because, there's fighting going on in the home. No, you need to talk to the kid. Why are you so angry? Is there something going on in your life? You know, and having these easy conversations with them and making acceptable and opening the door for them to talk.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Well, Aaron, is there a I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Is there a go-to scripture for you? Is there one that kind of fuels your fire?
Fuels my fire. All things are according to purpose. I really like that one. You know,
Okay.
and I like the one, about, I love the scripture about forgiveness.
Mm,
I'll never forget John 3:16. That really stuck out to me. As I told you, the enemy tries to stop me. There was a situation back in 2011. I am driving 3 hours to Indiana to go speak at a big conference. And I'm on my way there, and I get the worst blowout of my tire. My tire is literally going down the expressway, and cars are swerving to miss it. I still to this day do not know how I got my car over to the side of the road because literally there was nothing left of it. And I actually took pictures and I showed my husband recently. He goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how bad that was." And nobody was stopping to help me. I didn't know how to put the other tire on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what I do? I had my sister with me and her boyfriend at the time. And her boyfriend didn't know how to change a tire. So I finally told him, get in the car. I said, no one is going to stop and help us if they see this guy standing out here thinking this guy's helping us. I got to stand out there and look like a helpless woman and maybe I'll get somebody. So I'm praying to God in my car, please, Lord, send someone to help me. And no sooner did I pray after we'd been sitting there an hour, this semi pulled up in front of me and there was a big bumper sticker that said John 3:16. The nicest man. Not only did he put the new tire on, he told me to follow him. He was going to take me to a tire place and make sure that they put a new tire on your car. He was just the nicest man. He walked in there with me. He goes, she had a massive blowout. Please help her. And it was like this angel God sent. Sweetest man. He didn't need to do that. He could have just gone on his merry way. And he actually found a place. And I'll never forget it. When the tire got fixed, the mechanic came out and his first words to me were, "This is so bizarre." Still gives me goosebumps. "Do you have enemies?" Who says that? And I go, and knowing that I do have enemies, I go, yeah. He goes, because what was done to your tire was deliberate. That wasn't just a tire going flat. He goes, your car was messed with. Oh my gosh, it scared me. And once
wow.
again, I'm telling you, Satan coming, trying to put a stop to the mission and calling the Lord has on my life. And I will never forget that. I will never forget the look in that man's face and those words, "Do you have enemies?" It's like, wait, what? Did I hear you correctly?
Wow.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, and like I said, it goes back to just, and this is the one thing when people ask me, what can we do for you? How can we help you? Not only is it writing legislators, but it is literally praying for the calling God put on my life because the example I just gave you, I could give you a dozen more of awful things that have happened to me while I'm on the road, traveling, speaking, testifying to lawmakers. Everything from stalkers showing up in my life to a miscarriage in a hotel room. The list goes on and on. And like I constantly come back to no, Satan is not going to win. Satan
Right.
will not win. He
That's right.
tries and tries and tries. And there's a lot more fear and anxiety the closer I get to 40 states. I have experienced more and more things happening, but then I'm constantly being reminded. God puts it back in my face of another news story or another detective reaching out to me saying, I just want to let you know a child came forward today as a result of your law being taught. Or the principal in New York, after trying for 8 years to pass Erin's law, being so discouraged but never giving up. And the very first year it was taught, in one elementary school, 9 children came forward, all stating after the Erin's law lesson that the principal was molesting them. This principal, for over a decade, molested 24 children. There were 16, 19-year-olds that took the stand, said for years in elementary school, the principal locked the door. When these kids were being rewarded for good behavior, you get to have lunch with the principal. Instead of just lunch, they were being molested, threatened, and sent back to class. And it took one lesson to put this man behind bars for 62 years. And that is
Wow.
why I don't give up in these states.
That's
Because I prove
exactly right.
if it can save just one child's life in one state, it is well worth a decade of going after passing this.
Well, Erin, thank you for all that you are doing for the safety and well-being of young people. Thanks for saying yes to God, even though the road is long, the night is long, even though it's difficult. Thank you for being that person that's never going to quit. I know that's God's spirit living within you. So
Oh,
thank
yes.
you for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. No quitting for this mama.
That's right. Erin, how do people get in touch with you? How do they follow you? How do they
Yeah.
learn more about you?
Yeah, you can follow me on the Aaron's Law Facebook page, Aaron's Law Foundation Facebook page. If you go to Aaron's Law Foundation, you can see I now offer free curriculum to teach this. Because that's one of the biggest hurdles. I have lawmakers saying this is an unfunded mandate. So I created a foundation with the curriculum K to 12th grade. Parents can, download it. I got a whole bunch of homeschooling parents downloading it and teaching their kids it. You can look at this because it also takes away this fear that this is sex ed. Because there's this concern. This isn't personal body safety. This is teaching kids about changing your gender. No, it's not. It's teaching kids how to speak up and tell if they're being harmed. And
Yeah,
so that is why I created this curriculum that any school, any parent, anybody that wants to look at and talk to kids about this, you can find it right under the curriculum link on the Aaron's Law Foundation page.
that's so good. Erin, are any churches using that curriculum?
I have had a few Catholic schools reach out to me
Yeah,
looking into it, but it is so new. It has literally just come out in the last 3 to 6 months. Middle school just finished. And high school isn't even on there yet. It's finished, but my graphic designer is making it look all pretty. So it will
yeah.
be on there within the next month.
Wow. I was just thinking, for churches that are fighting the good fight, for churches that wanna make a difference and an impact in young people's life. I know it's messy, but churches, I wanna encourage you to be involved. Don't you sit on the sidelines on any of this. You bear some responsibility because you know what truth is. So live it out and make sure no one has to live with the guilt or shame of things they didn't do themselves.
Hmm.
Help them. Okay.
Yep.
Erin, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to see you again.
Oh, oh, it's good to see you. And listen, may the Lord bless everything that you do in these last 12. May it not take another, please, not till you're 70. I would hate that for you. May it be sooner rather than later. Okay.
Yes. These legislators are giving me gray hairs and wrinkles.
Well, it's well worth it for every
Mm,
life that's saved, though.
it
Thank
sure
you.
is.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I appreciate it.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.